Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of the show. I'm Joe. Hold on. Before we get into this, I need everybody to hear this. Uniondale High School, Long Island, has produced a number of really like celebrity type celebrities, right? Shirley Ralph, Buster Rhymes. There's probably a few others. And my guest today is the superintendent of that district, a school that is like 99% students of color, uh, that spends $5,000 less per pupil than the district maybe next door. And in the last 3 years, she has pushed that school's graduation rate above the New York State average. All rise. Dr. Monique Darrisaw-Akil, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Dr. Joe. I'm so excited to be here.
So I have to ask, does Buster Rhyme know that you are the superintendent of his high school?
He doesn't know
He
that.
doesn't know that.
We would love to have Buster Rhymes come and spend some time with us and all the brand Nubians and leaders of the new school. We'd love to have them as an old, former hip hop head, or maybe I'm still one. We'd love to have Buster come back.
So, and he's not the only one that has walked those halls that other people would just know today if they saw him out on. Who are some other?
So we have, some really special people. We have, even though she was not a student here, we have a special connection with Alicia Keys because her grandmother was one of our founders of our PTA association.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I'm not going to say her nickname because I wasn't privileged to given
That's okay. That's okay.
but she is fondly known in Uniondale for spending time before she was the Alicia Keys. She spent time in the hallways, came to some of our summer programs, and we look up to her a lot over here. And of course, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Christian Cooper.
Oh,
Yeah, he is
oh.
a scientist, a very famous bird watcher, Harvard graduate. He had a National Geographic show. He won some Emmys. He is really like a Renaissance man, and he graduated from Uniondale as well. So we're really proud of the famous young people that have come through our hallways and are making changes in the world.
And a number of invisible heroes, I would imagine, are still walking the hallways today. And you've got late graduation. I just picked that up from you. A lot of superintendents have already like practiced their speech and they're done and they're into the no. So you've got a few weeks left in the rest of this academic year, and then we move into the summer season. Before I dig into Uniondale, when I look at the data, because I look at the data of the guests that I speak to, I keep asking myself, really, how is this happening? The zip code math says that these outcomes that you're seeing shouldn't exist here. Uh, so, first thing you did when you arrived, you rebuilt the college and career room.
Yes.
Not a program. A lot of soups are coming in and bringing the program that worked from their other system,
Yeah.
but no, no, no. You staffed the room.
Yeah.
Why was that an emergency?
So my director of guidance, came to us and came to me and said, I'd like to do this. And when I saw what was currently in place, it was a room that was staffed by, someone in a clerical title, and it was just a couple of books, some college brochures, and it wasn't a place to help kids who are, for the most part, first gen. A lot of our
Mhm,
students are first generation
mhm.
college going students. Learning how to navigate this process without a long history of people who've done it in their family, it just wasn't a place that was really going to be a resource. And so when Dr. Stacy Reed came to me and said, could we staff this with a real counselor who has expertise, I said yes. Of course, I had to go to the Board of Education to ask for the allocation, and it has just done so much to uplift our graduation rate, but also diversify the types of colleges that our students are going to, and really let them know that they can go anywhere. They don't just have to stop at a 2 year institution, they can really go to some of the most competitive colleges. And she has the strategies and the formula, and that's our Jessica Kane to help us get there.
You've got a real strong, secure, self-aware person in that position, but you also have a proven practice that you're putting
Yeah.
into play, and it's working for you. Obviously, your numbers are showing it. So let me put the sector on the table here for a minute, because I want people to understand this unique, and it was eye-popping when I got into it, just the environment that you're operating within. Long Island has 124 school districts in that slice of geography. Same county, same map. Uh, the e-build study that I looked at confirmed that Uniondale Rockville Center border is one of the most deeply divisive district funding borders in the entire country. What are school and district leaders, when they look at that, what are they doing with that gap that just is not working today? And how have you shifted that to make it work for you?
So, I think that our school funding models are built on historical practices outside of large urban areas that have a lot to do with the residential tax base. So, basically, if you buy a house in a wealthy community, you have a higher tax base by which to fund your local institutions.
That's how it works in New York.
That's how it works, right? And so um that is perpetuating inequities in terms of per pupil spending. And so while we recognize that to be true, we do not use that as a justification for poor performance or lower expectations. This is the cards in which we have been
Mm-hmm,
given,
mm-hmm.
and our children are amazing, they're genius, and our staff are phenomenal, and we're going to transform the lives that come through our doors, whether you give me 100,000 or 50,000. We're gonna make it happen. And
That's it. That's it. Say it louder for the people back there. That's it.
and again, doesn't mean that we don't feel the impact of having less money, less state aid, less funding. Well, of course we do. Of course, there are things that we could do if we were given more. But with what we have, we're gonna just keep pushing, and keep moving and keep expecting great outcomes and working like Dickens to make it happen. So I don't villainize my neighbors. They didn't create these funding formulas. And the other thing is, we develop partnerships. I want our children to be the best and the brightest. So that
Mm.
means that our staff and myself have to continually get, great ideas. And I think great ideas are found everywhere. So we don't isolate ourselves because we are in a racially segregated community. We are constantly developing partnerships with other school districts that have higher SES, lower SES. If you have a great idea, we're out there going to, we're going to visit, we're going to check it out, and we're going to see how can we adopt it, even if it means we might have to think about, what is within our means. We're going to adapt those great ideas. So, we're not on an island. We are on an island,
You are on an
but not ideologically.
right, and I love the
Constantly,
fact that
yeah.
you're honoring your neighbors. You're honoring this system that was built by, I would just say, a wound, and I'll get in trouble for that. You won't. But our bad systems, our broken systems, were created by a wound out there of misunderstanding how that might be sustained throughout generations and generations. So tie in school district funding to property wealth, I think is a big. It's just been a big challenge across the entire country of ours. But you're not reacting to it. I'm not seeing you reacting to it. You're responding to it, but you're not reacting to it. You're not pointing fingers. You're not victimizing yourself, saying, "Well, we can't." Because my guess as a student in your district is going to have as many opportunities that you've been scrappy to figure out how we're going to do this than what they would have if they went to another district that maybe had a few more dollars to work with. That came from a place, Doc. That came from a place. And you came from a place. Tell me, Bed-Stuy, what in the world is Bed? Where is that? And tell me about just how that was kind of the place that made it all happen for you.
So it starts before Bedford-Stuyvesant. My dad grew up in a segregated part of Florida, so I think this idea of
Mm.
race and class and property and all those things always intersect in my leadership. I'm very cognizant of it. My dad grew up in Vero Beach, Florida, in a segregated part that was actually called Gifford, where the African Americans lived. And when he relocated to New York in search of a job opportunity and met my mom, he moved to Bedford Stuyvesant, which where at the time is where one of the large places where Black people in Brooklyn lived. And so he grew up under the idea that, of course, you send your child to neighborhood school because it's our neighborhood school. But in New York City, there was this large, kind of matrix of trying to get your kids, through this gaming system to
Mm.
better schools, whatever that means. But better usually meant more proximity to wealth and whiteness. So you tested through the gifted programs to get your children into better schools. And that's something that initially he didn't really understand because you just go to neighborhood school. You don't think that the neighborhood school won't prepare your children. And even though I benefited from, gifted programs, I was always struck by the idea that my dad had. Your neighborhood school should prepare every child for a great outcome, and you shouldn't have to fight or scheme or network your child into a better environment. So that's where kind of my way of doing and knowing and leading comes from. The neighborhood school should has to be a viable, wonderful option for all kids. And so I've always been committed to the neighborhood school, whatever that neighborhood is, whether it's Bed-Stuy or Bushwick, which was also in Brooklyn, where I was a principal, or Brentwood in Long Island. I've just always been committed that we can do great things in the neighborhood.
Tell me about the academy that you built in Brushwick.
So that was under the Joel Klein era of chancellor under Bloomberg, where
You are a disruptor because that place did not belong there until you arrived.
well, we were challenged with creating like these startup type schools, right? Bloomberg was like, he's this businessman that what if we blow up, typical ways of doing school and let smart people create some ideas, innovative ideas, and create these innovative places inside of schools that have been traditionally failing. And so I was invited to be a principal at 32 years old, which sounds crazy and still feels crazy. And I worked with a group of amazing teachers and partners, and we created this urban planning school where students would be immersed in design and architecture and public policy and really questioning how we got to be, how does funding happen, why do some parks look amazing and green and other parks are concrete? And what do we as citizens do about it?
Mm.
So we design curriculum around like these authentic problems in our local community. And, with kids that would have attended Bushwick High School. So we had our share of E&L students, students who were going to be first to graduate from high school in their families, students who were the children of, incarcerated parents being raised by grandparents. We had our share of every student that people thought would not succeed, and we worked and we changed outcomes and we changed lives. And I think we actually changed the neighborhood working with my colleagues in that building.
I love it. You're not just changing the local geography or park or mindset. You're changing a family tree. I mean, when you think about the level of impact and that seat that you're sitting in right now, um, you were told no multiple times. That people literally told you this seat wasn't in your future. What has kept you going?
So I grew up in New York City. Went through some challenges. Was a mom, and as a principal, and as I moved up, in the Department of Education, I was very intrigued by policy and who makes the decisions.
Hmm.
And so I think every step in my career was about why and who makes that decision. And the closer I got to seeing like who was, behind the curtain, who was the Wizard of Oz, I saw more and more that there was a lack of representation at those top decision making levels, and I was committed to diversifying that decision making and being a part of the decision making. And so that's the thing that kept me going. Like, why not me? Why not a Black mother of sons and a daughter? Someone who grew up in New York City schools and went to Brooklyn College. Why not me? Why not someone who's been a principal in an area that was underserved?
Hey, friends, quick question before we get back to it. I know that you have talented people on your leadership team, but is your team actually performing to its full potential? Most aren't, and most don't know why. The Team Intelligence Assessment is a solution to change that. Find out where your team stands at higherperformancegroup.com. Go to find your starting point to get started today, or click the QR code in the screen right here. All right, back to the show.
That had to face some significant challenges, but was able to overcome and create good outcomes, great outcomes for those students. Like, why not me? And that's why I didn't give up. So I will say, I don't know, the number 7 is very significant in lots of different faiths.
Right.
But I was denied. I applied for superintendency for 7 years. 7 years of getting all the way up to the final round and being told, you're awesome, but we're going in another direction. 7 years of crying and questioning whether or not I was good enough. What is it about me that people don't see me as the chief executive officer of a school district? Even questioning, my appearance. Am I looking presidential enough? Am I looking?
You can second guess yourself all day long.
Not
but
anymore.
you know what? You overcame 7. You overcame 7, and there's a new story of chapter 8. And I can't wait to talk to you about what's going on in 9, and then hearing about 10. But here's the thing: a lot of leaders, I was a 29-year-old principal. I had no business.
Right.
I mean, I probably still had some non-permanent teeth that were just like, what in the? I didn't know even what I didn't know. And you walk into those places, and you have to honestly just like work through the I don't belong here. I do not belong, because it's just going through your head. And I think every leader is on that journey to some extent of I don't belong here. Now act like I belong here to I belong here. When was that juncture between act like you belong here and now, because I can tell it's resolute, you belong here? When was that, and what really called that up in you?
So, I attribute some of it to my faith, for sure. I think you have to have an inner resolve, even when you're told no and it's discouraging. And after you get up, through the moment of like eating ice cream, that was my go to, self soothing. Even after you go through that, really dusting yourself off and saying, listen, despite what it looks like right now, I know what is promised for me. I know, what I believe I'm called to do, and I'm just not going to give up. And understanding that that period of denial really could be protection. And when I think about some of the places where I was denied, and at the time it felt like this is the perfect spot for me. I know that I was really, saved for the what I think has been the perfect.
There's always more going on than what we understand in the journey. Yeah.
And just surrounding myself with people who encourage me. But I also think we have to be open to the lesson, right? So, we should always be sharpening our sword and saying, are there new tools I need to continue to learn? Are there, so I always, went for coaching and participated in consortiums, and I just never stopped learning and growing, because even if you might think you were unfairly denied, there still might be some feedback that you can receive and things you could work on. And so I always just kept that open-ended attitude. I'm never done learning. There's always someone who could teach me something. I'm still actively being coached. I will, until the day I retire, I will always find a way to be in a coaching situation because I think that's what helps me grow. And so I think having that attitude allowed me to, recover even in the moments when I initially felt like maybe for 2 seconds I didn't belong here.
There's a heart set that I'm picking up, but there's also a mindset. That heart set that says, I've got a passion, I've got a calling, I'm supposed to be here at some point, so I must persist. But then that mindset that can almost has to tell that 3.5 pounds of mass between your ears at times what truth is, because there's a lot of lies that you can tell yourself of, well, maybe we can talk ourselves. The smarter we get, the better excuses we have for not overcoming our obstacles. That's what I believe. So you're doing victory laps today, and I can just tell you're doing victory laps. And I have to just be honest with you. As I look at your data, I want to just double tap on this, and then we'll close it up. But most equity work in K-12, it produces a strategic plan and maybe a new job title for someone. Some professional development days that you put in the calendar. That's, from my experience, that's what you're going to see. And the graduation rates, they don't budge. They stay the same. So when I see Uniondale, 79 to 91 in 3 years, AP enrollments busting up, ESL graduation is up a number of points. I need to understand what is actually different, not the mission statement. What is moving first?
So we have a strong team, and one of the things that I will take credit for is, smoker focus. That is a core value for me as well as a leadership strategy. I don't always have the answers, but once we collectively, my leaders, the teachers, the board, students that I listen to, I meet with them. Once we decide these are the things we need to do to move the agenda, then we focus, we lock in, and we drill down and we think about what do we need to do to get from here to what our desired vision is. And with that focus means that we have to say no. It's almost like a marriage. A marriage is forsaking all others. When you
Mm.
focus in on a goal, you have to forsake everything else that might feel good, that might be a legacy project, might have been things that everyone's done forever, and say nope, because that's going to take us away from the things that we're really, really intentional about achieving. And constant tracking and monitoring and making everything public, even our mistakes.
You're not afraid of just putting some yuck. That's
Yeah,
yucky.
so we survey our students once a year. We share it. We share it in a board meeting. We share it with students and parents. We ask questions like, does the school feel welcoming? Did you feel challenged? Do you feel like we're really preparing you? And our leaders track that data, that year over year. What are we doing to change it? If 70% of the kids said, yeah, it feels welcoming, well, where are the other 30% and why?
Mhm.
So we share it. We open it up. So there's a community conversation and hopefully community accountability around our goals. And so, if you ask most, families, if you ask our board members, if you ask our leaders, they can all pretty much tell you what are the things we're working on this year, what are the things we're working on next year. So I agreed with what you said, Dr. Joe. A strategic plan that's a pretty document that's on your website and is in your drawer means nothing.
Amen.
It's only the focused, intentional actions that make it live and breathe. That is where you get the results.
Mm. So is what you're building at Uniondale, is that a national model? Or is it too specific really to export?
I think there are certain things that definitely are, replicable. The work that we've done around advanced placement, the work that we've done around closing the gaps for our multilingual lingual learners. The chronic absenteeism, we were
Whew.
cited across Long Island as reducing chronic absenteeism, where across the country those rates are continuing post pandemic to rise, and we're nowhere near where we want to be. But our principals have just driven the bus and thought so, creatively about how can they partner instead of penalizing families, because if a
Yes.
5-year-old is late or absent, you can't punish the 5-year-old. You have to educate the family about
Yeah.
what this
So true.
means. And
So true.
and our principals, and a shout out to the Uniondale principals. Guys, I love you. I respect you so much. They have really been so thoughtful about partnering with families around attendance. And because of that thoughtful work, we have moved the needle in reducing chronic absenteeism. So there are lots of things that are replicable nationally, and some of the things don't even cost money. And I shouldn't say that because we need money. We need money. Anybody out there, hit me up.
An unpaid advertisement. We could sponsor this thing and have it all flow through to Uniondale. Come
We
on.
love that.
We're
But
hanging by the
some of
phones
the
right
things
now.
they've done don't cost anything. The
Yeah.
principal being outside every day, greeting their children, talking to families in the car, having signs outside that says, "You're 5 minutes late. That means you've missed this part of the reading lesson." Things like that. Parents have responded to. So it's not only about money. It's not about a program. Our attendance strategy is there's no program that we purchased. It's really about the adults, the social workers, the counselors, the teachers, the direct contact, and changing our attitude from penalizing kids and families to partnering and educating and facilitating conversations that say we care about you. And when your kid is not here, they miss a lot and we need them here.
Well, and I hope that you continue to really frame everything that you are doing, because I know the proven practices that you're building. There's no such thing as best practice anymore. It's better practices that we've learned from. Whew, this is a whole new world that we're living in right now. So I so appreciate you staying focused. I still so appreciate you building the team. I so appreciate you, staying coherent to just the scoping and sequencing of what needs to be done for your students to persist and go places that they probably don't even believe that they could go to. So yeah, we're going to wrap up the regular interview here. Now it's lightning round time. We're going to see if that super human that we all just heard from is actually a real human. Okay. So the first question, is there a quote that you live by?
So the quote I used to live by is service is the rent you pay for living. And I still embrace it and love it. But Dr. Joe, I am rethinking sacrificial service and thinking that we all deserve rest and balance in our lives and health. And so I'm kind of interrogating my own feelings around service, but I definitely am a person who believes in service.
Believe it too. Believe it too. What's the worst leadership observation you've ever seen in your career?
I saw a superintendent enter the district with a lot of preconceived notions about who the people were without actually getting to meet the people, and just never taking the time to appreciate the work that had been done, but trying to come in with an entire brand new strategy without building on the success that was already there. So Malcolm Gladwell talks about finding the bright spots. I
Hmm.
saw a superintendent come in without identifying one bright spot. It did not go well. People did not feel respected, appreciated, or nor heard. And so I learned, like, don't go in like that.
Well, let's turn the tables then. What's the best leadership advice that you've actually used?
So one of the superintendents I worked for, Rich Lochner, former superintendent in Brentwood,
Shout out.
was boots on the ground. He had a motorcycle and drove around the neighborhood. And I don't have a motorcycle, but what he taught me, he knew people. He would bring cookies to the senior citizen center. He taught me that leadership was more than just a title. It was really being in community in authentic ways, in jeans on a weekend, but really investing in that community and being a part of the family and the fabric, and it's something that just stuck with me.
Shout out. How about an unpopular opinion that you would defend today? I
um,
love that little laugh. Here it comes, folks.
Here it comes. Besides the fact that I knew the Knicks would all eventually be where they are right now. Besides that,
Oh boy.
I think that so in some places people define equity in ways that are about culture and climate and only in terms of in race. And I define equity in terms of all those things, a culture sustaining educational model that prepares our students for a rigorous education. And sometimes I've seen that people think it's either or, and for me, it's both and. So it's being the warm demander, it's challenging our students, it's holding sometimes ridiculously high expectations for students and giving them the scaffold and supports that they need to meet them. And so I don't know how unpopular it is, but I think that when we get both of those things, we get world class education for all children, regardless of their background, family makeup, SCS. They can do it, but they need the supports.
Speaking of world class, Brooklyn slice or Long Island slice?
Brooklyn all the way, for sure.
Say no more. Something you changed your mind about recently?
I think I'll go back to that. You have to give it everything, every waking moment. You have to be all in.
Just grind. Just
Grind,
gotta
that
grind it
grind
out.
culture. And I'm
Yeah.
still living it. I am really trying to say no a little bit more and
It's not
reserve a little
sustainable.
peace.
Folks, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, and we're just raised to, like you get to these jobs because you're the hardest worker. And I'm just trying to
But it leads to this. There's a free advertisement. It leads to that.
yeah, save a little bit for yourself. That's
There
what
it
I'm
is.
changing my mind about.
How about one decision you make 10 times over?
Being a superintendent.
For real.
For real. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's all consuming. It has challenged me and stretched me in ways I never thought possible. But it's the most rewarding, besides being a high school principal, legacy work that I would do over and over again.
If you weren't doing the work, what would you be doing?
I'd be writing and mentoring and coaching our young people for free without a title nor a time clock. I'm going to be that old lady that shows up at the library with her one little kid working on their social studies homework project. Like I would do that, but definitely spend more time writing,
That's who you are.
sharing
That's who
ideas.
you are. How about a word, short phrase for Uniondale's future?
Can I do a rap song, Dr. Joe?
Only if I can beatbox it.
So DJ Khaled had this song, I'm all the way up, we're all the way up. And
Come on, girl.
we're going there,
Let's go there.
still just we continue to rise. We're all the way up. Nothing can stop us. We're all the way up.
What a fitting just way to punctuate this amazing exchange today. I always look for that one little morsel. If there's just kind of that universal big idea that I pull from an interview, and here it is. It's that zip code ceiling. You just taught us all to have the courage to release our fear and blow through that zip code ceiling. That operating assumption that you're born, where you're born determines all the rest of it. Your dreams, your destination. I think it's a villain in every story of public education, to be honest with you. And it's taken way too many people out. So I so appreciate you standing tall and being a modeled example that inspires the way for all of us, to ensure that we walk with that level of posture and resolute attention to staying focused and working through the journey of I don't belong here to I'm going to act like I belong here to I belong here. So that's what I'm pulling from this exchange here, Dr. Monique. And if there's one last word of encouragement that you'd give to an aspiring superintendent out there that doesn't believe that position is actually the privilege that you say it is, come on, one last word.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. I think it's the most important job in the country. Yeah. If people want to learn more about your system, where do they go?
so I'm very active on LinkedIn. So I would say, follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me, inbox me. I'm also
She
on.
posts every single day, folks. She's like a motion film. You just click, 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 click.
I'm also on Instagram and our district website, and we're our district, Uniondale K-12. You could also find us on, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Follow us, be a part of the Uniondale success story.
That's the show, folks. Keep your